Hey folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Pol Ke Bol. My name is Saurabh Pol. I just had a haircut, but guess who else had a haircut? My salary. I'm part of the Indian middle class. I would say, let me start the video by saying I'm quite privileged, but like everyone else, I like complaining about the government and no more there's nothing I like complaining about more than the Indian finance ministry and what they are doing with the urban middle class, especially, and how nowadays, if you see, I think there's a lot of tax terrorism going on. And frankly speaking, I'll give you some numbers, right, to back them up. In the latest reports that you can see, in terms of all the direct taxes collected, uh, personal income tax for the first time was more than corporate tax. The personal income tax like contributed to 53.6% of the tax, overall tax collected, and corporate tax contributed around 46.5% or something of that sort. So the citizens of the country are paying more than the corporations of the country. These corporations worth thousands of crores, they're paying less than us, which is pretty insane because I think the corporate tax rate is at somewhere around 22%, and there is talk going on of reducing it to 15%, by the way. And the Indian middle class, there is talk going on to increase the amount of taxes we are paying, by the way. Fun fact, trivia question. Do you know how many people in India actually file uh, income tax returns? Like basically, you file an income tax return to show, hey, this was my taxable income. This is how much tax I paid. I think I am owed a return. That's an income tax return. Only 6% of Indian population has filed for, in the latest financial year, has filed for a tax return. Only 6%. Oh, but here's the thing about tax returns, right? That doesn't mean each one of them have paid it. 60% of the people who filed a tax return claimed there is no taxable income in it, which means only about 2 to 2.5% or maximum 3%, you could say maximum 3%, 3.5% of India has actually paid any income tax at all. And those are the official numbers, right? Like, I'm not making them up. So when only 3% of the population is paying income tax, you get services which reflect 3% of it, right? And that too, you're expecting that those taxes go to the government and they're not swindled in some way or form or the other, which we know happen more often than not, right? So that's the reality. To give you a comparison, in the United States, around 44 around 56% of the population pays taxes. In China, the numbers are somewhere around 10 to 15% of the population pays taxes. Because and China has a very different model, right? The Chinese model is that of, hey, we'll keep your income tax low, but your indirect taxes will be pretty high. So their tax to GDP ratio is around 20% for China, which basically means the amount of tax that is collected, what percentage of it is that of the total GDP, right? For India, it is around 11.6%. Usually it was around 10%. But recently we had so much earning from the GST and the direct taxes that we get charged. Um, it's um, it's now at 11.6%. The recommended number is around 16%. So we are very far away from that. We are like we will need to have a 50% growth to reach that level. But all these percentages aside, just to summarize, I think the Indian middle class is heavily burdened, and the amount of taxes we pay are incredible. They're insane, and those are just the direct taxes that I mentioned, right? What about the indirect taxes that we pay? Recently, the finance minister, Miss Nirmala Sitharaman, had to hold a press conference talking about caramel popcorn and what will be the percentage tax applied on caramel popcorn. If it is salted popcorn, the tax percentage is different. If it's caramel popcorn, the tax percentage is different. Because if it doesn't contain salt and pepper in it, then it is a snack. Then it is no longer a snack; it's a sweet. So it should be taxed accordingly. So this is where India is right now. This is what we are. And I think at this point, I think we should stop pretending we are on track to, like I think one good thing has happened in the last year or two, especially since the recent Lok Sabha elections. I think we have all accepted that India is never going to be as big as China. Forget the USA. It's not even close. It's not even funny. I think now in those conclaves that you have, finally, our thought leaders and industry captains have come forward and said, "Ki boss, we know when India grows up, it won't be as big as China. I think we need to make peace with it." And this is what it has come to, frankly. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It is what it is. But you know what? I like honesty. I genuinely like honesty, and I'm so happy that our people are now accepting कि boss, अपना economic growth है ना, will happen despite the government, not because of the government. And it's just embarrassing, like, the amount of taxation that we get, especially the urban middle class in India, who I make who most of my videos are made for them, right? Like for you guys, because that's been my experience, right? I've been very privileged, and I remember once talking to a friend, and I asked her, like, man, the amount of taxes we pay, it's insane. Nothing gets back in return. मतलब मैं अगर 100 रुपए दा रहा हूँ, मुझे 1 रुपया वापस नहीं मिलता. मतलब the roads are shit. There is literally no medical care that's free. Even for, like, even during a once in a century pandemic, I got vaccinated by, honestly, um, like a private entity. Just by the way, I won't name them, but I got vaccinated by a private entity. I had to pay for it, right? And I mean, a friend of mine was like, even now, where are our taxes? What is happening? Can the government not at least give us free, vaccination? And I mean, it was giving free vaccination in certain places, but it was just too late by the time you got it, right? So anyway, coming back, I don't want to get too much into it. But the point is, like, I was asking this friend of mine, I was like, कि हमको क्या मिलता return में? क्या ही मिलता return में? Like, there is, I mean, if I do not deal with a private entity in India, if I'm dealing with the government, that's the worst thing that can happen to me, frankly. That's the worst thing that can happen to me. Um, I mean, it's embarrassing. It's so bad. The transportation is horrible. The sanitation is not on time. Our rivers, even within the cities, are completely polluted. Infrastructure projects that should take 5 years are taking 15 years. So some of them should have started in the late 90s. They're starting in 2010. So frankly, and वो भी construction start हो रहा है. Bridges that should have been built 25 years ago are still being constructed, are still being debated, they're still being developed on paper. So हमको वापस क्या मिलता है? A friend of mine, when I was talking to her, she basically said, uh, the privilege of not being poor. That's it. She just said the fact that you're not poor is an achievement within itself in India, and we are extremely lucky to not be in the horrendous position millions of Indians are in, right? You can complain about taxes till the cows come home, but it's not going to improve until the poverty in India is alleviated sufficiently enough, right? At least in our lifetimes, for the next 40, 50 years, I don't think our taxation is going to improve. The only solution we have is kamao, keep earning money, because the taxation tiger is always going to be there. It's always going to keep running. Your only job is to run faster and keep running faster, essentially, because India is not a country that has the mentality of kamao. The Indian government is always there as that strict warden, which is like, कमा रहा है तू, रुक तेरा मैं लेता हूँ, मैं क्या कर रहा है, मैं भी देखूँ कैसे कमाता है तू. See, this is all complaining, right? This is not a bitch and moan session that I want to, put you through. You can do it with your friends. The real pole ke ball for this video is just to tell you one very simple thing, right? Is that taxation in India, the entire point of taxation, by the way, is to take that money from the citizens and put it in the common good. Okay. And the common good in India right now is welfarism, where we are just like, we're literally going to transfer money into people's bank accounts. Ladli Behen, Ladki Bahin, all sorts of variations in different languages you do, and you put that. Basically, you are giving money to women of poor and underprivileged backgrounds, and you're just straight up giving them 2,000 rupees per month, straight up giving them 2,500 rupees per month. Many of our states are in horrendous debt, and they're in debt of lakhs and crores of rupees, right? Like, it's not even like itna tax collect karke we are all sorted. The states are very much in debt. The central government is fine. but the states are incredibly in debt. Some states like Punjab and Uttar Pradesh and all, horrendous debt levels, right? Like the debt to GDP ratio of Punjab is like 47% or something. For UP, it's 36, 38%. Even Tamil Nadu is one of the best performing states in our country with extremely high GDP. In terms of GDP per capita, I think it's one of the highest, Tamil Nadu, along with Karnataka and Maharashtra. And you will see that even their debt is extremely high. The straight up reason being that our government is extremely hell-bent on doing, all governments, right? All governments, not just the BJP or the Congress or even the regional parties. They all want to do welfarism, and there is a very simple reason for it. They basically, welfarism gets you votes. It gets you votes. Now there is a legalized way of just ensuring you keep getting votes again and again. You could call it bribing the voters or how you want to call it, like depending on your political persuasion. You It's basically many people who are like they would consider it a moral thing to do in a country with such crushing poverty. The government has to take the role of my bap. Okay, India will always have a my bap government. That is our DNA, and it's never going to change. Like इवन व्हेन इट कम्स टू सेंसरशिप, इट्स लाइक इसने ऐसा बोला, इसको इसको बैन करो, या ये ऐसा कुछ कर रहा है उसको रेगुलेट करो, अरे ये ज़्यादा कमा रहा है इसका थोड़ा खींचो, एंड probably, and many people then feel that the poor people they get welfarism, the rich people they get like they wo to chor hai, like that's the common wisdom in India. Anyone who's done well, any businessman who's done well, ye to chor hai, crony capitalist, all of them, sabke sab chor hai sale. That is the common wisdom. Thankfully it has been changing in the last 10 years, where being an entrepreneur is a sexy thing. Back then it was like there was a casteist slur also, by the way, for an entrepreneur in India. And also it was like sab ye sab log to sab chor hai essentially, but thankfully it is changing in recent years. Having said that, everyone thinks yaar ye log to tax wax bharte hain nahi, full scam hota hai, and everyone knows it's a joke. India's tax laws are a joke, especially when it comes to dealing with the rich people. So when you but then again the question becomes, in a country so poor, who's exactly rich? Many people would be like, bro, you are rich, relatively speaking, you are rich. You and I, looking into this camera right now, looking into the screen right now, we are rich. And I would agree, I would completely agree, like relatively speaking. But we know, but I know now I'm pretty much middle class. you know I know, how we are salaried people, boss. हम लोग सैलरी वाला लोग हैं, हम लोग ज़्यादा उछल कूद नहीं कर सकता. I mean, you have to be very mindful of what you're doing, right? It's not like, oh, there are like millions of rupees with me and I've just kept them somewhere and it's all cool. It's not. I wish it was, but it's not. As of now, or at least it's not. And as I said, it's the whole game you have to play for the rest of your life, is that the tax tiger doesn't catch you. Just keep running faster than the tax tiger. That's all I can say. I honestly can't say much, because in India, until, the base rises up to a certain level, taxation is not going to go away. They cannot tax the corporates, because what they want to do is basically they want to reduce the tax burden on the corporations, because they are like, हम तुमको टैक्स नहीं करेगा, बट वो पैसा जो तुम्हारा बचता है वो तुम जाके इन्वेस्ट करो फिर इकोनॉमी में. दैट इज हाउ दे वांट टू ग्रो द इकोनॉमी. द होल पॉइंट ऑफ टैक्सेशन इज टू टेक द मनी, put it where it is needed. So the poor people need it, that's great, but also the economy needs to spur on, trade needs to improve, because पैसा आना भी तो चाहिए ना किसी को देने के लिए. you I mean, in college we were taught, right, socialism in a lot of ways was, communism in a lot of ways was robbing Peter to pay Paul. Ultimately पैसा उतना ही रहता है, just alleviates the inequality. Like, both people should get more money, and for that you need more business, more trade, and you need to create more things of value that the world wants, essentially. And you can't just have like IT, BPO, KPO centers coming up. That is just one level of things. We also need to go for manufacturing. In a country this large, manufacturing has been a huge failure, continues to be a huge failure. The West is begging India to rise up, because they want to decouple from China. They are like China plus one strategy. They want to follow with their manufacturing, where they are like, भाई ये इधर वापस कुछ पैंडेमिक आ गया, जियोपॉलिटिकल टेंशन हो गया, वॉर हो गया, हमको ये सिर्फ चाइना पे डिपेंड नहीं रहना, हमारा सप्लाई चेन शुड बी डाइवर्सिफाइड. वी वांट इंडिया टू टेक इट अप, बिकॉज इंडिया इज द ओनली लार्ज कंट्री अदर देन चाइना हु कैन बी इवन कंपेयर्ड. और किसी के पास स्केल नहीं है, बट उन लोग को कुछ भी करके दे हैव नो ऑप्शन, दे हैव टू गो टू वियतनाम, बिकॉज इंडिया इज नॉट अ सीरियस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंट्री. वी हैव नॉट इन्वेस्टेड इन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. आर I mean, we small and medium enterprises are completely destroyed since demonetization, and it's been horrible. It's been horrible. They've been completely suffering. So ultimately I mean, it's not a pro business country as of now. At least India is not a pro business country. I know there are changes being made, but before the pro business mood is setting in, it is extremely pro taxation. Okay, like all I want you to do is very simply, and this is just not, I'm not even talking about the direct taxes, right? Like you can't just bitch and moan about one thing. Like honestly, a few years ago, the limit, non-taxable income was until 2.5 to 3 lakhs or something. From 2.5 lakhs, it has gone to 5 lakhs. It has gone to 7 lakhs now. You can earn up to 7 lakhs per annum, 7 lakh rupees per annum, and the government won't tax you. Direct income tax नहीं लगेगा आपको. When it comes to indirect taxes, वो सबको लगते हैं. But let's be honest, right? Indirect taxes nothing but consumption-based taxes. And who consumes the most? It is again the middle class and the rich people. But because of the sheer number of people that we have, the middle class consumes the most, right? Um, so, I mean, every Indian pays taxes, no doubt about it. Many people are like, poor people also consume, they pay indirect taxes. But what is the percentage of the overall indirect taxes they pay, and indirect taxes plus the direct taxes the urban middle class pays, right? Um, People say, ki, oh, this is unsustainable, this and that, this and that. The government is alienating people. The BJP especially is alienating the middle class and its core vote base of middle class people by this draconian tax policies. My question is, what's your alternative? The the Congress, the Indie Alliance, especially the Congress, let's be honest, it was the Congress. They were like, we will bring back, inheritance tax. Like, we'll increase the taxes, we'll increase the welfarism, we will pardon loans of farmers, and so on and so forth. And we think we should increase the taxation. In fact, they want to bring back inheritance tax. These are not liberal, these are not free market liberals that we are dealing with. Okay, like, it is for the Indian middle class, it's between a rock and a hard place. If you think right now it is bad, wait till the people who come to you and say, the next government will come to you and say, by the way, if your parents pass away, we are going to take a percentage of your property. Wait until that happens. What this is who we are dealing with. This is what we are dealing with, unfortunately. Whether you like it or not, that is the reality of India right now, because our leadership, our elites essentially think the middle class is spoiled. Because I'll be frank, right? Like, there was this one of the key advisors to the Congress leaders is a professor. I think he teaches in a very big MBA college in India. And he was asked, and this professor was asked in an interview, what do you think? What do you think about this whole thing about bringing back inheritance taxes and increasing the number of taxes that we have already? And he was like, the urban middle class needs to understand that you need to sacrifice a little bit more. Uh, and like, the poor people are in a very bad state. And if you're selfish, if you don't want to pay more tax. So this is what we are dealing with, by the way. So if you think things are going to get better and we're going to vote these people out and someone else is going to come in, those guys are even 10 times worse, just mind you. Those guys are even 10 times worse. Because I don't think the opposition even has any vision for India. The entire point is, ये फालतू टॉपिक लो, वो फालतू टॉपिक लो, झगड़ा करो बीजेपी के साथ, बात खत्म करो. Nobody gives a damn about the middle class, very simply because, please remember this, I don't want you to waste your time again and again every day complaining about the same things. Okay? The Indian middle class is very small in number. Okay, we are around 110 million people okay, we are very small in number. The people who actually pay taxes to is even less, as I told you, 3% of the population. Correct. 3% of our population is what, 1.5 crore log pakad lo, आगे पीछे. 5 crores out of 145 crores. uh, yeah, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Okay, you add family members here and there, आगे पीछे, 10%. You 10 to 12%, right? We are a huge minority in this country. You cannot tax, you want to reduce the tax of the corporations, and you cannot tax the poor people, especially. And what, 55% of India is into agriculture, by the way. Majority of this country, the most popular profession is being a farmer. They are not taxed. Of course, they have other things where they have to, sell at this particular price and this and that. They don't have a cushy life any which ways, right? I'm not claiming that. If someone asks me, "Oh, तेरे को इतना लगता है farmers के बारे में, तू बन जा farmer." I mean, I remember I was arguing with someone as usual. But the point is, I'm not saying that. But the point is, like, we can't keep having these many people in agriculture, and the government even accepts that uh, we are still an agricultural country in big 21st century, while Silicon Valley, mind you, those people are already coming up with the technology to grow food in the lab. Now you'll be like, मैं नहीं खाएगा लैब का, like मत खाओ, 50 साल में दुनिया पूरा खाने लग जाएगा, हम बैठे रहेंगे यहाँ पे, is all I'm saying. And there is no I don't want to eat lab grown food, bro, but India is not a leader who sets the tone for what the world does. Those are other countries, and the reason being that they are much more capitalist than we are. And until and unless our culture becomes much more capitalist in nature, we are constantly going to be under the thumb of excessive taxation, right? And see, I realize I live in a country where the finance minister is uttering the words caramel popcorn. If the finance minister of your country is saying caramel popcorn, something is very wrong. I don't want the finance minister of my country to say caramel popcorn. Honestly, it's embarrassing. Like I remember a few years ago, uh, Indian Twitter was making fun of Pakistan because Pakistan government had like set like a samosa will not be charged above 10 Pakistani rupees or something of that sort. Everyone was laughing their ass off, right? Like, ha ha ha, look at Pakistan, garib log, this and that. Like, how is this different? We are just a different level of, cheap in this case. We are just pathetic. We cannot, we cannot wait to tax luxury, like luxury. Air conditioning is a luxury in this country, by the way, where the average temperature goes up to 40 degrees during summers, 40 degrees Celsius. So it's, I don't know what to say, man. It's embarrassing. And by the way, if you uh, if you suddenly, on a thought exercise, by the way, if you suddenly reduce the income tax from whatever 25-30% it is for the tax slab that at least I am in, and then it goes like suddenly, it goes half for everyone. Chal, mind you, assume सबका ऐसा टैक्स वैक्स सब भम करके नीचे गिर गया, 50% कम हो गया. So you know what's gonna happen? Everyone will have more money. At least the middle class will have more money. The middle class will spend more money. They'll consume more. Guess what happens after that? Inflation. Because people have more money, the goods are the same. Supply utna hai, demand बढ़ गया. Inflation. You and I can take inflation fine. Who cannot handle inflation? Poor people. Who votes for governments? Poor people. As I established, we don't have the numbers. Plus, it would be wrong, right? Like, I don't want inflation to not happen because, oh my God, poor people will change governments. No, it's bad for them. They will not be able to afford things. So ultimately, you can't even reduce the income tax in India until like different modes of income comes along. So we have to increase the size of the pie, is what we like to say. But I don't think the government is doing enough. I don't think our private sector is doing enough for it, mind you. We are not. Um, what the government of India is trying to do is more and more and more try to increase the number of people who are paying taxes, right? Which is why digital payments are crucial in that endeavor of the Indian government, because you can track digital payments. The last thing is like people are like, you know what, सबको tax करो, क्या exemption होता है, you should tax anyone who earns anything. The logic behind that is, if people who earn below a certain amount, if they are taxed more, which means they'll spend less. If they spend less, the money in the economy reduces, so overall economic output reduces. So businesses won't make as much money. So businesses, if they won't make as much money, even the corporate tax that is put is reduced. So that's the thing, folks. I will go back again to what my friend once told me: just be happy you're not poor. Just be happy you're not poor. Try to be rich, but just be happy you're not poor. And I know it's a very depressing note to end the video on, but it is what it is. And this is what I've tried to explain, right? Run from the tax tiger, run from the taxation tiger in India, because at least for the next 40, 50 years, unless we become a hyper capitalist country or something else happens altogether and our output increases manifold, I don't think our taxation woes are going to reduce. Oh, by the way, AI is coming. I think it's already there. But in the next 15, 20 years, AI is going to take over a lot of jobs. So the government has no option but to make universal basic income core part of its promise. Okay, and it's a responsibility, mind you. So when things like that happen, the importance of taxation increases even more. So just be happy, have a nice time, kamao jitna ho sakta hai, earn more, keep earning more. That's the only thing I can say, because the tax terrorism on the Indian middle class is not going to stop. Uh, Run as fast as away from the taxation tiger as you can, because you will have to keep dropping pieces of meat for the tax tiger, right? Like, नहीं तो तुम पे हड़पेगा. So keep earning and keep thriving and make the Indian government happy. That's all I can say. So yeah, let me know what you think about this. Many people say that, because of this, people are moving abroad and this and that. By the way, things are going to happen there too, because they are not able to fund their welfare programs either in the West. So taxation has caused a lot of revolutions across the world. Um, Mahatma Gandhi's Dandi March was against the salt tax. The Boston Tea Party, the revolution against the colonists in America. America was founded because of a tax dispute against the crown, the English crown. So taxation is a very dangerous thing. So we have to all tread very carefully, by the way. Empires have gone to dust because of taxation policies. So it doesn't sound sexy, but it is extremely important. So yeah, anyway, all the best folks. This was Polkeball. Let me know what you think and stay safe and file your tax returns. Thank you.